join us in a moment of silence? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Anderson.
Present.
Bullock.
Here.
Juris.
Here.
Madigan. Here. Marks.
Here.
Nowling.
Here.
O'Leary.
Here.
Reading and disposal of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held May 4th, 2015.
Move to adopt without the necessity of a reading.
Second.
All those in favor, and is there anyone who needs to abstain? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
Abstention.
All those opposed? And that motion passes. Without objection from my colleagues, I'd like to move number 5, the Annual Historic Preservation Awards presentation, to the front of the agenda. This is, any objection? Hearing none, we will do that. I'll have the clerk read that in a moment. This is one of our favorite meetings of the year where we see just that wonderful community spirit and willingness to show community effort and hope and optimism and pride in our homes and businesses. Madam Clerk?
Item 5, Annual Historic Preservation Awards presentation.
Thank you. Turn it over to Mr. Sika, and Mr. Sika, if you would reintroduce yourself to council and to this audience tonight.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Rick Sika. I'm chair of the city's Heritage Advisory Board, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the 14th Annual Historic Preservation Awards presented by the City of Lakewood's Heritage Advisory Board. LHAB, on behalf of the administration and council, as well as our other appointing authorities, the Lakewood Historical Society and the Chamber of Commerce, would like to thank the building owners, their architects, and contractors who respect the architecture, design, and craftsmanship of their buildings, while at the same time keeping them as places to raise a family, create jobs, and provide services to the community. I'd also like to acknowledge the other members of the Heritage Advisory Board, Hillary Schickler, Vice Chair and Secretary, Amy Haney, Marcia Mall, Heather Rudge, Frank Scalish, and Jeff Weber. And if you're here, would you please raise your hands?
Please stand so we can recognize you.
So I'd like to present a short set of images first, and then we'll have the recipients come up and receive the certificates, and we finish with a group photo. There are 9 recipients this year, and May is always part of National Historic Preservation Month, and their theme through the National Trust for Historic Preservation, This Place Matters. Going on locally this year, we have tonight this awards ceremony. With Lakewood Alive, their Knowing Your Home educational series going through June. We'll have sessions on exterior painting, universal design and aging in place, porch repairs, and plaster and drywall repairs, and more information is available on their website. And sort of an unusual event that happened on May 3rd, it was the Cowan Pottery Historical Marker dedication. And this was done at the site of the original site of the pottery at 1360 Nicholson Avenue. There are some 2-family houses there adjacent to St. Edward's, but just briefly, that is our Guy Cowan, the head of the Cowan Pottery Studio, which was founded in Lakewood in 1912 on Nicholson Avenue, moved to Rocky River in 1920, and remained in operation until 1931. And it is really an enterprise that is internationally known. And for the ceramics they produced and the artists that they employed, like Victor Schreckengost and Waylon Gregory and Edris Eckhart and Elsa Vick Shaw. The list really goes on and on. This photo is Cowan Pottery Museum Associates trustees, staff, and Lakewood students from Dina Blumel's gifted class who helped in the research, and that was the marker. And here are examples of some of the pottery that was produced at that site on Nicholson Avenue during the 19-teens. Cowan probably would have stayed here, except when he came back from service in World War I, his natural gas pocket had dried up. So he had to relocate the pottery, so they moved across to Lake Avenue in Rocky River. So, for tonight's Preservation Awards, In the category of commercial revitalization, the Marjorie Building, 15100 to 16 Detroit Avenue. It's a 1917 building that looked like this before the work. Lots of wood paneling that had been put over the storefronts, and now it looks like that. So all that wood paneling has been removed. New storefront windows and entrances have been installed. There's new signage and awnings, and there have also been a significant amount of interior improvements that have occurred as well. In the category of rehabilitation, but also a commercial building, 14806 Detroit Avenue, First Federal of Lakewood. This 1916 building was designed by Reynold Hinsdale, a Cleveland-based architect who really designed buildings all across Ohio. And in 2006, First Federal received an award at this very presentation for their exterior preservation of the building. But now they've undertaken something really remarkable, and that was the interior space. Originally, this was both lobby and offices, and they had in some portions here the original egg and dart molding on top of the capitals. They reproduced that and extended that design theme through the entire space. And they also, as part of doing the work, found that this, which is gold tape, not gold paint, was what was used originally in the space, and the same material was used again. When they were removing layers of flooring, they uncovered the original Tennessee pink marble, which is the same flooring used, for example, in Cleveland City Hall, and the flooring was restored. And then the real elegant piece in that whole design, when they took down the 1950s drop ceiling, there was the original barrel vault art glass ceiling. So all 210 panes of art glass were individually removed, cleaned, and reinstalled, and it's now illuminated by natural light focused by these 18 tubes that are located on top of the roof, and that focuses natural light down on it. There's no artificial lighting on this ceiling. In the category of sustained maintenance, 13980 Lake Avenue, this is a 1924 house, a $16,000 house for the time. The builder had produced a number of houses, Burnham, in Lakewood. The original owners, Fred Allen was a physician in downtown Cleveland, and they moved into the home with their three teenage children. The work that was done over the years has included painting, a new driveway, landscaping, and also a new garage that architecturally matches the house. You can see that here in the pitch of the roof, and the shingles, and the siding, and the color as well. In the category of sympathetic addition, 13909 Lake Avenue, this is a 1912 house. The first owner is Minor and Irma Allen. He was the general superintendent of the National Carbon Company. And sort of unusually, she was a native of California, born in the early 1880s. People always go to California. This is the case of someone who came back east. The new kitchen addition here in the rear on the driveway side, it matches the features of the original house, including the gable pitch and the unusual siding on the first floor. In the category of new garage construction, 1224 Edwards Avenue. The house was 1908, and the original garage on the property was 1919, and they built a new detached garage. And again, you can see how this garage back here in shape echoes the house here. And the upstairs, they're very, very creative here. The windows in the upper part of the garage are salvage and very closely resemble the original windows in the main house that are up in the attic. In the category of rehabilitation, 1446 Mars Avenue. This is a house that already a lot of people in the room are familiar with. A 1905 home, although we didn't have any luck with the original owner. Around 1920, the owners who lived there, Augustine Morrison was a dentist, and they moved to this house from Robinwood Avenue. And this is what the house looked like before. Different paint scheme, obviously a lot of repair needs. And this was a city-owned property that was being prepared for demolition when a partnership with Lakewood Alive and the Detroit Shorey Community Development Organization stepped up to save the property. A demolition situation that might have resulted in adjacent owners splitting the lot and erecting fences, such as this example on other streets, another street in Lakewood. Instead, we have an intact streetscape of homes, the revenue from property taxes and income taxes, and in fact, this house sold to the new owners for $336,000. And you can see some of the charm and the character inside the house, all of which was retained, all of that woodwork, and the large stained glass window was on the landing going up the stairwell, and the new owner is, of course, an owner-occupant, which was required as part of the project. In the category of historic rehabilitation, 17822 Lake Road, a 1916 house designed by Bonnard and Parson. Now, they were a very well-known firm in the Cleveland area for their residential designs, particularly in Lakewood and Cleveland Heights and Bracknell. The first owner is Edward Nix. He was superintendent of the Warren Fuller Company, which is an iron and steel firm that became part of Republic Steel. And their project was the complete replacement of the century-old wood shingle roof, which included all of the complicated work of bending and steaming shingles to fit into all of these undulating profiles of the roof. As someone in the Clifton Park told me, I think I said to them, boy, they must have been there for weeks, and the person said, oh no, they were there for months to get this done. So maybe there's another century roof for that house. In the category of historic rehabilitation, 13985 Lake Avenue. Built in 1913, the architect was Charles Pennington. We designed a lot of other buildings in Lakewood, including the Curtis Block on Detroit Avenue. Another National Carbon employee, the original owner, William Clymer, was a factory manager there. This is a real estate ad from 1930, when the house was on the market. Now, normally we don't talk much about the owners, but in order to explain this and why there are 2 awards related to this house, I need to have a minute here. So after owning the home for 45 years, in 2010, the Zychowski family sold the house to Fred Kemp and Keith Galestock. Now, they had been living at the time on Manor Park, and they had received a Preservation Honor Award in another one of these ceremonies for the work that they had done there. So they undertook a complete and painstaking list of work on the house, including a new roof, restoration of all of the windows, exterior painting, and a lot of interior improvements. Then as they got near the project, it turns out that Kemp and Galestock purchased a home in Bracknell. This is one of those cases where, gee, we were really looking for a house, and they really had no intention of leaving Lakewood, but when you have the opportunity to buy the Williams house, as in Sherwin-Williams, it's really a chance you don't pass up. And they've upsized enough, probably. They've gone from 2,000 square feet to 4,000 square feet to 8,000 square feet in Bracknell. So they've got enough on their hands for a while. But what they did was, they worked with the new owners, and they coordinated the remainder of the project, and the rehabilitation work is being finished. So the award for that goes to not only the folks who were responsible for the bulk of the work on the house, but also the new owners who will come in and are going to see it through to completion, and then also take on the care of this home as well. And finally, the Founders Award for Jim Dulce, 20-year member of the Lakewood Heritage Advisory Board. You know, back in 1993, when the National Carbon Company office building was demolished, City Council was very concerned about that and what it meant potentially for the community, and Council members Robert Seeley and Joe Gibbons sponsored a resolution to authorize a citywide historic preservation study. Volunteers were appointed to the panel and submitted their report in 1994, with a list of recommendations, and based on that, Mr. Seeley and Mr. Gibbons were lead sponsors of City Council's 1995 ordinance to create the multi-partner Heritage Advisory Board. And Jim was a City Council appointee to the 1994 study, and his contributions were really instrumental to the success of that report and really setting the course that LHAB has had over the years. And he was a 5-term City Council appointee to LHAB and served all 20 years as Vice Chairman. And we, it always helps to have a rocket scientist. Literally, a lot of people just sort of make that joke, but we really had one. Because they tend to be very level-headed, and they tend to take the long view of things. So, we could always count on him for his thoughtfulness, his witty writing, and his ability to really think through a situation and really come to the essential points. So with that, we say congratulations, and that is the awards for this year. And I'll call up the recipient. So as I call folks up, if you just go in the direction of the screen over there, and that's where the photo will be done. So we have the Marjorie Building on Detroit Avenue. Allied Real Estate Company. First Fellow of Lakewood on Detroit Avenue. April Stoltz, 1224 Edwards Avenue, New Garage. Walter and Aaron Senni, 13909 Lake, Sympathetic Edition. Sometimes folks aren't able to let us know. The Detroit Shoreway Community Development Organization and Lakewood Alive from Mars Avenue. Thank you very much. Mark and Adele I knew I'd do this eventually. Mark and Adele Bartlett, 17822 Lake Road in the New York. Keith Galestock and Fred Kemp, 13985 Lake Avenue. And also from 139 Lake Avenue, Thomas and Megan McGann. And finally, Jim Dulce. You know, this always happens, and then someone's got to come over with a camera, and everybody's stretched out.
And we do,
Because it's bunched together.
and Mr. Seco, we want to get down there too, but I'd like to just start by saying to Mr. Dultz, thank you for everything you did for the past 20 years. You made this one of the most fun meetings. Were inspirational to Bob Seeley, a colleague of some of ours, and a man many people remember very fondly, and Joe Gibbons. And the two of them had the vision, and you had the vision, and Rick and Mark, everybody who had the vision. It is now part of the fabric of this community, and it really makes a huge difference. But Jim, your service is fantastic, and we, as a council, are very, very grateful to you for all this time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is the first time there's no Ward 4 award.
I'm sorry. Everything was
Both
pumped
the
up
Cowan
to
Pottery,
17.
the Cowan
Are
Pottery.
you giving your picture?
Yes, we want to get
Stay
there.
there.
Stay there.
Stay there.
The council wants to do that.
Stay in there.
Sure, why not just sneak in there?
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks for everything.
All right, everybody. Look at me and say cheese. 1, 2, 3. You can take one more. One,
Collins,
two,
had
three.
something, I think it's something.
And one more.
Text me.
1, 2.
Yeah, just one.
One more.
Point as well. Because, so that's what they'll put you on that.
You're gonna have a press release on this eventually, aren't you?
Yep, I'm working on it.
And are the pictures from the PowerPoint gonna be available too?
They will.
Okay.
Just give you the PowerPoint.
Oh, okay.
Do you have a junk drive on?
Probably.
And a special thank you to Detroit Shoreway as they walk out with Lakewood Alive. That was a really good example of a partnership that did a lot for Lakewood. Thank you again for that. Marcia, Rick, thank you to the committee. Who's leaving?
Oh, it's on there? Oh, great, thanks.
Madam Clerk?
Item 1, regarding committee of the whole meetings on letter of intent regarding possible committee of the whole meeting 5/18/15 to include resolution 880315.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The Committee of the Whole met this evening, a little bit past 6:30, Monday, May 18th, to discuss portion related to the letter of intent. At this meeting this evening were members of Lakewood Hospital Association who came in to report out on the meeting Lakewood Hospital Association had on Wednesday. At that meeting, they discussed financial losses, among other things, and 4 of the members who were present, 3 of the members who were present spoke to members of council to discuss most specifically the accelerated financial decline and the consequences associated with the staffing at the hospital. Council then, that's a brief description of it. I'll have a more thorough write-up at some point later. Then council broke into executive session to consult with our attorney and members of the staff, and on a specific motion that allowed us to discuss the potential purchase of property and or sale of real estate matter. Move to, I move to submit that oral letter, or that oral report on the Committee of the Whole. Is there any comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 2, resolution 880315, a resolution creating the Clean Water Integrated Planning Task Force for the purpose of assisting in the development of solutions to address Lakewood's wet weather management needs through community engagement, and to advise municipal officials on transformational improvements that will maximize social, economic, and environmental benefits to the city, its residents, businesses, and institutions for development of the EPA Integrated Wet Weather Improvement Plan, referred to the Committee of the Whole 5/4/15.
Move to defer. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 3, Public Works Committee report regarding resolution 880415.
Councilman Juris?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight, Public Works met to discuss one item, Resolution 880415, which would authorize a permanent easement agreement with the Commodore Club Apartments located at 18915 Detroit Extension. Present were myself and Committee Member O'Leary, as well as Council Members Marks. We were later joined by Council Member Anderson, as well as Director Benno and Director Butler. This easement would be necessary in order to continue the city's obligation to the EPA under the Integrated Wet Weather Integration Program. Essentially, this is another piece of the puzzle in addressing our storm sewer overflow issues, and will create a tunnel, a new sewer pipe that will better address some of our sewer conditions And as it happens, it cuts through a small portion of the property at the Commodore Club. So again, an easement would be necessary. After some discussion about other alternatives and if there were any other options, the committee eventually made a motion to recommend adoption here tonight. Move to receive and file.
Second. On the motion to receive and file, is there any discussion? We have one person signed up for public comment who's interested in discussing water. Mrs. Graham, are you interested in addressing this issue or generally? Not this issue, okay. So on that motion to receive and file, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Item 4, Resolution 880415, a resolution to enter into a permanent access easement agreement with Commodore Club Apartments, governing the rights of the parties relative to a parcel located at 18915 Detroit Extension, which grants the city access to the parcel for ongoing maintenance of the underlying water and sanitary lines for a payment of $6,300, referred to the Public Works Committee 5415.
Move to adopt.
Second.
On the motion to adopt, is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it.
Item 6, communication from Councilmember Nollen regarding appointment of William Barman to the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Councilman Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dear fellow members of council, this letter serves to confirm that I have appointed William Barman to serve on the Citizens Advisory Committee for the term ending on December 31, 2015. I appreciate Bill's willingness to serve, and I am confident that he will be a great asset to the CAC. Sincerely yours truly. Move to receive and file that communication.
Second. Discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 7, communication from Finance Director Pay regarding 2015 second quarter transfers.
Director Pay?
Attached is the second quarter transfer ordinance, which is a quarter of the total anticipated transfers that are in the 2015 appropriations. Please refer to Finance Committee.
I move to receive and file Director Pay's communication.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
Item 8, ordinance 2015, and ordinance authorizing the transfer in advance of certain funds.
Move to place on first and refer to the Finance Committee.
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 9, communication from Planning and Development Director Siley regarding sale ordinance.
Director Simon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is what is an annual request to retain a realtor to list properties that we've acquired using federal funds and rehab using federal funds. I'd ask that you refer this committee to the whole so I can give the council a more complete update on our rehabilitation program. Thank you.
Thank you. Move to receive and file communication.
Second.
Is there any discussion? For the members of the public, we will tell you that that these properties are in Quail, Clover, and Alameda, as well as Dowd. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 10, ordinance 2115, an ordinance to enter into an agreement with a licensed real estate broker to market for sale the real property located at 2126 Clover Street, 1615 Alameda Avenue, 2147 Dowd Avenue for a period of 120 days pursuant to section 15507 of the codified ordinances.
Move to place on first and refer to refer to committee of the whole.
Second.
All those in favor? Is there any discussion on the motion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 11, communication from Mayor Summers regarding fiber network proposal.
Mayor Summers.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of council. This letter and the legislation that follows it introduce a discussion of an effort that, with your approval, would preserve the city's independence in maintaining dark fiber, which are strands of fiber optic cables carrying data. A new self-sustaining dark fiber network would benefit the city for years, potentially decades to come. And it would protect options for our community's public and private educational institutions, as well as our public library. The proposal under consideration will deliver 20 times our current internet speeds for our local public agencies and businesses. This will create a significant advantage for attracting new residents, businesses, and economic development in Lakewood. It is my belief that marketplace competition for the existing fiber network used by the city and offered by Cox Communication under a legacy agreement dating from our cable franchise days will likely crowd out our ability to use it economically in the future. This could leave our needs unmet altogether or at an increasing and possibly unaffordable rate. I am proposing instead to form a contractual relationship with One Community, a nonprofit Ohio company, and its private sector counterpart, Everstreet, to meet both public and private long-term needs and growing demands for bandwidth. This will enable us to build and control our own fiber network around the city and other local public and educational entities to join us as well. I look forward to presenting and discussing the details and merits of this proposal with City Council with an expectation of gaining your approval to enter into a contract following your deliberations.
Thank you, Mayor Summers. I'm going to move to receive and file that written communication.
Second.
Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 12, Resolution 880515, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into agreement with Everstream, Inc., an Ohio corporation, or One Community, an Ohio nonprofit corporation, for the installation, operation, and maintenance of a fiber optic communication system within the city of Lakewood, without the necessity of bidding in accordance with Lakewood Codified Ordinance, Section 11104A10, in an amount not to exceed $900,000.
I'm going to refer this resolution to the Committee of the Whole for full deliberation by council. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Sure, Madam Chair.
Councilman Bullock.
I'm looking forward to the discussion of the specifics of it, but I just want to compliment the mayor's foresight on this point. I think we're at the very early stages of everybody canceling their cable contracts and going HBO only so they can keep up their Game of Thrones addiction or whatever your TV binge choice may be. And it's going to change everything. And telecommunications is one of the most rapidly changing industries. So to the degree that we can secure stable access for our community, our library, our schools, that's a good move. And it's an exciting proposal, one that quite frankly wasn't on my radar screen, but I'm glad that you're leading us in that direction. The other thing I'll observe, for those of us who are not Generation Y, and maybe, or certainly not Generation Z, and who grew up when you banged chalk and breathed the chalk dust and you liked it, you go to our school district's presentations, and it's all iPads for the young kids, Chromebooks for the middle schoolers, and actually, fourth grade a little bit younger. It's all going to be tech. So this question of securing our future, technology is central to it. It's just the way of the world. So that is kind of a nice compliment to the historic housing stock that we all just learned about and appreciated for quite a presentation earlier today. Just some thoughts, but I appreciate the strategic view. Thank you.
Madam Chair, could I make a point of clarification?
Mayor Summers.
Just for the benefit of the members of the audience, this contract would not be bid to the nonprofit, but the nonprofit will actually solicit bids for the substantial cost of the installation and purchase of cable. So it will be a competitively bid process managed by the nonprofit One Community. So just so there's no alarm that we're not going to go out and seek the best price. Our expectation is that there will be several bidders, one locally here in Northern Ohio, who has proven to do this work well, and perhaps others from out of state who would also be interested in doing this work. It's a substantial amount of work, and it needs to be bid, and it will be bid.
Thank you, Mayor. On the motion to refer this to Committee of the Whole for the full deliberation of council, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 13, communication from Planning and Development Director Siley regarding modification to Lakewood sign ordinance, Chapter 1329.
Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Direct council's attention to my correspondence. As you know, our commercial development has been brisk in our community over the last several years, and we continue to refine our sign code to better address the needs of our business community, but also protect the interests of our community as a whole. These are minor adjustments to the code, and I'd ask that you refer these to the Committee of the Whole so we may discuss them in more detail. Thank you.
Thank you. Move to receive and file the director's communication.
Second.
All those in favor? Is there any discussion?
One quick question. Will some of the proposed amendments include 8-foot fiberglass gorillas.
Not specifically addressed, Councilman.
Thank you. Director Sandy, in your correspondence, you have referred to the architectural board review, but to committee of the whole.
As requested, I'd like to vet some of the changes, modifications
that-
of council first before referring to the Board of Building Standards Architectural Board review.
Thank you. Thank you. That's clarity. On the motion to receive and file the communication, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 14, ordinance 2215, an ordinance to amend various sections within Chapter 1129 signs of the codified ordinances of the city in order to update the code.
A move to place on first and refer to the committee of the whole.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 15, communication from Law Director Butler regarding submerged lands lease 12550 Lake Avenue.
Director?
Thank you. The resolution following this communication would permit the Meridian condominium to complete its application to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources for a submerged lands lease, which would in turn permit it to permit the condominium association to construct shoreline erosion control measures in the water. So I ask that it be sent to a committee of your choosing for further deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you. On this correspondence, move to receive and file. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on this? I would want to alert my colleagues that the erosion conversation along the Gold Coast has been going on for years, as many of you know. This is one part of it. There will be much more coming up, but be advised that the condominiums along the shoreline are looking to protect their shoreline, and this is one in a series of steps that will take place. On the motion to receive and file, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 16, Resolution 880615, a resolution approving the use of submerged lands for property located at and abutting 12550 Lake Avenue, a legal description of which is attached hereto as Exhibit A in order to permit the owner's opportunity to undertake lakeshore protection measures.
Move to place this on within the Committee of Public Works for consideration.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, Councilor Juris. That brings us to the conclusion of tonight's meeting. There are a few announcements. I'm sure, are there any announcements from council? Actually, I would like Mrs. Bach to take a moment to bring us up to date on an issue that she's been covering on behalf of council.
Thank you, President Madigan. Members of council, on May 12th, Director Gelsomino and I participated in a stakeholder engagement meeting as part of the Creating Healthy Communities grant. To refresh your memory, the County Board of Health applied for the CHC grant with support from the city in fall 2014 and received notice of the award in November. The grant will support 5 years of program activities in the city, and the 4 components of the grant are to complete a community assessment, to explore a shared space open use agreements, to implement the Ohio Healthy Program at child care centers, and to implement a tobacco-free campus policy at one work site, private or public or parochial in the city. And most of the meeting that I attended with Director Gelsomino was focused on the first part, the community assessment, which is going to come first. The grant staff need to identify 3 schools, 3 work sites, and 3 community organizations to guide through the assessment process, and participating organizations will use the results of the assessment as a basis for making changes for which grant funds may help to implement. Reassessment will be completed at the end of 5 years to track progress. And there are a number of ways in which council can be involved. From my point of view, and Director Gelsomino might have some other ideas too. since she was very active at the meeting. We could work with the administration you could work with the administration to volunteer city halls and work sites to be assessed. You could work with the administration to have at least one city work site implement a tobacco-free campus policy, or help the grant staff identify other work sites and community organizations to complete the community assessment process. If you have any other questions about the meeting or the grant, I can put you in touch with the grant staff. They've made themselves available to attend one of your meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And Director Gelsomino will look for any other further updates through your area as well. Thank you. Are there any announcements from council? Councilwoman Marks?
I do have an announcement, just to let everyone know in the community that Memorial Day is celebrated jointly with Rocky River in the city of Lakewood at Lakewood Cemetery, and there will be a parade, Memorial Day parade, taking place in Rocky River. So we invite all of our great citizens to attend and show their active participation in their respect for our veterans. So I hope you all can join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Not to be announced here, I want to make, I'm sure everyone is aware that there's a Birdtown Church Walk. There are 4 open historic churches in Birdtown, and on June 14th from 1 to 4 there will be an open walk and lots of people there to give you tours, and businesses will be open. Lots to do coming up. In addition, there will also be the Taste of Lakewood, I think, before that. Does the administration have any announcements? Thank you. There are many members of the public who have signed up to speak. Thomas Monahan. So before we get going, I wanted to make very clear what because last week, 2 weeks ago, I want to say that I probably ought to have read this beforehand. Some people know that there is a 5-minute rule, a time limit. Many of you do, some may not, and it is usually the clerk is the person who times it on a stopwatch that's up here. So I will just read the paragraph. I think I had a couple of suggestions from my colleagues for this, and I thought it was a good suggestion. So the President of Council may recognize any non-member for addressing Council on any question then pending. In such cases, the person recognized shall address the chair, state his or her name, and address the subject matter that he or she desires to discuss. Speakers must be courteous in their language and avoid personalities. When addressed by the chair, the speaker must yield the floor and comply with all rulings of the chair, said rulings not being open to debate. Except with permission of council specifically given, speakers shall be limited to 5 minutes. No person who has had the floor shall again be recognized until all others desiring an opportunity to speak have been given an opportunity to do so. And Mr. Monahan, I know you know the rules, but I appreciate you letting me read that ahead of time. This is the paragraph that has been on our agenda for years and years. So I read it to all of us, including all of us up here, just to remind ourselves, and so everyone knows that it is a fair 5 minutes for everyone. Thanks, Mr. Monahan, and I know you know this as well, but please state your name and your address for the record.
My name is Tom Monahan, and I live at 1487 Waterbury Road, which is the house that Dr. Graber built in 1904, mortgaged in 1907 to build Lakewood Hospital. I want to talk to you about Lakewood Hospital tonight. On behalf of the members of the Committee to Save Lakewood Hospital, please accept these petitions signed by over 2,400 residents asking Council to reject the proposed letter of intent. The majority of the signatures are from Lakewood residents, with a few hundred from individuals in surrounding communities that are part of our hospital service area. For more than 3 months, a large group of residents have been meeting to gather facts and information to better understand the rationale to close our hospital. Members of our group have attended every public meeting and reviewed all written information related to the management and operations of our hospital.
The group has researched academic, industry, and market trends of the healthcare field, including insurance regulatory and patient management requirements established by the Affordable Care Act. Our committee has scrutinized the proposed letter of intent to enter into a long-term agreement with the clinic and to replace our hospital with Family Wellness Center. We made a visit to the clinic's Huron Road Wellness Center and interviewed a large number of healthcare workers, paramedics, doctors, hospital trustees, and members of council, along with other elected officials, to understand the magnitude of this decision. The committee also reviewed the 2014 proposal for Metro Hospital to operate and manage our hospital. We have secured, by way of multiple public records requests and through the assistance of volunteer legal counsel, extensive factual information related to the process that led to the decision to close our hospital. This includes notes, reports, financial statements, and meeting minutes. The committee also reviewed the operations of the Clinic West Regional Hospitals, attended the State of Cleveland Clinic meeting hosted by Dr. Cosgrove, and carefully monitored Cleveland Clinic marketing and planning activities for the West region. The committee has paid particular attention to the delivery of patient care at our hospital and noted the long and unreasonable emergency room wait times now occurring at Fairview. Much of this has occurred because of inaccurate statements concerning the closing of the Lakewood emergency room. We have listened and reviewed campaign activities and comments by some of our elected officials and board members of Lakewood Hospital for the purpose of verifying their statements for accuracy and completeness. The committee believes that many of these statements are misleading and are intended to undermine the continued operation of our hospital and to deplete valuable resources. The trustees' conduct is presumptuous and attempts to circumvent City Council's authority to determine the future of Lakewood Hospital. Through the course of our investigation of the operation of our hospital, it has become evident that the decline of patient volume is directly related to multiple breaches of contractual obligations to maintain and operate our hospital. For over 5 years, there has been an obvious plan to reduce patient volume with the systematic elimination of hospital service lines. This plan has been perpetrated by the clinic, acting in complicity with the LHA. There's been a strategy to strip the hospital of profitable service lines so as to cripple the viability of our hospital. We are confident as this dispute makes its way to the courthouse, evidence will be uncovered that the clinic's conduct to eliminate the viability of our hospital was motivated to support the expansion of the clinic's facilities in Avon and to destroy the opportunity for other healthcare providers to serve the citizens of Lakewood. This restraint of trade is unlawful and unfairly provides the clinic with an unearned market share of patients that lead to unnecessary costs, diminished quality of patient care, and a lack of competition for healthcare providers in the Lakewood service area. We're asking council to immediately place the LHA and the Cleveland Clinic on notice that they are in breach of the lease and to initiate the legal process to declare a default under the terms of this contract. It is imperative that council demand that the LHA immediately restore required services to the level mandated under the terms of the hospital lease. Otherwise, unnecessary losses will be incurred and the public confidence in the quality and availability of medical services provided by our hospital will be adversely affected. We request that council prepare a request for proposal from other healthcare providers who may have interest in continuing to operate and manage our hospital. It is important that independent healthcare experts be retained to advise and assist council in an open and transparent review of all new proposals. Council should assume responsibility as it is evident that the prior request for proposal issued by LHA and managed by their Step 2 committee was written to exclude meaningful negotiations with viable partners who are capable of operating our hospital. A review of the process clearly reveals that the clinic received preferential treatment of the negotiations and review of their proposal even in spite of their continued breach of the lease. Most importantly, the clinic has never been required to account for their violations of the contract. Finally, we believe that significant reforms must take place within the governance of the LHA so that proper oversight and compliance with the requirements made to citizens of Lakewood are honored. We thank you for your efforts to scrutinize this proposal and to protect such an important community asset.
Thank you, Mr. Monahan. Do you happen to have that electronically? Can you send that to?
I have copies for you. I'll give
Great,
it
and if you have it electronically, will you also send that to Ms. Hagan and Ms. McHugh? Thank you very much. And the copies which you hand to
Sure.
Ms. McHugh.
Thank you.
I mean, wow. Is there a Donna Polis?
Thank you. Sorry for my unprofessional appearance. I was walking around outside for a while. My name is Donna Colas. I live at 17893 Lake Road, Lakewood, Ohio. I've lived in Lakewood for 28 years. By profession, I am a medical malpractice attorney, and I need to tell you I have very serious opinions about healthcare and its delivery in our community and every community in Northeast Ohio, but that's not why I'm here today. I'm used to giving summations at the end of a lengthy trial where all the evidence has been produced. And I feel a little disadvantaged because 5 minutes doesn't give me any time to produce any real evidence. So I realize that what I say is simply my opinion and anecdotal. I speak for myself and a lot of citizens in the city of Lakewood. During the course of my personal experience with this letter of intent, and I got involved late in the game, I was out of town litigating a drug case for 2 months, and I didn't get into it till March. So I read and read and read, and I hear the same complaint from every citizen. There's a fact that's been represented, and that fact is that the city of Lakewood has no need for a hospital with beds. That fact has not been proven. I would submit to you, council, that that subsidian report is nothing more than a mere conclusion. It doesn't represent our hospital. It doesn't represent our community. What the public did learn in recent weeks, and we had heard rumors of the same, is that a credible partner exists who is willing to come to Lakewood Hospital and improve and continue the operations of a full-service medical facility. That partner is running towards us. They're not running away from us, as we perceive the current letter of intent as. Now, I know that all of you have in your possession, I believe, that preliminary letter from the Metro Health System regarding the Lakewood Hospital proposal, but I've picked up the 3 pages that I'd kind of like you to look at over the next series of conversations that you have. In preparing the proposal, I was struck by its really initial intonation to us about what they could do, and I have extensive experience with Metro Health that I'm willing to talk to anybody privately about. Metro Health breaks even, mind you, and you could look at their financials, on expenses at Medicaid reimbursement rates. Combining a low fixed cost model with quality patient outcomes which are equal to or greater than competitive systems has placed Metro in a favorable position for the transformation of healthcare to come and create a sustainable platform, to secure the future of Lakewood Hospital. And why that impresses me is what I've heard anecdotally and at some of the meetings of the whole and at presentations by people from the Cleveland Clinic and from the trustees is that we have to downsize and downscale this community because of a shifting demographic. I will submit to you that if you will take your time and look at the Metro model, they're aces, they're on top. They have dealt with the lowest demographic forever, and they've delivered amazing health care and broken even. It's just something I want you to consider. The second thing that I looked at in going through that particular proposal was that they intend, their absolute intention based on their response to the RFP that was issued to them is to maintain a full-service hospital. No, nobody has proven to any citizen in this community through that subsidian report that we don't need a full-service hospital. Of course we do. The emperor doesn't have any cloaks. We all see that robe that isn't there. We want hospital beds in our community if it's possible. You know, we have a doctrine in federal court. As I said, I do a lot of drug litigation as well. Both sides to the litigation submit expert reports. But the one thing you can't do in an expert report and have it go in front of a jury is what we call the doctrine of ipsa dixit, meaning, because I said so. I want to tell you that the majority of this community right now believes that this deal, quote unquote, is being forced on us because somebody outside of our community who doesn't have our community interest is saying, because I said so. And I think that's sad. I'd ask you as council, because you are the ones who control the fate of our city, I want you to believe it. I want you to evaluate it. And lastly, what I find most disturbing is that there was a representation at a meeting that Metro didn't get considered because A, they withdrew their proposal. I think that's subject to debate that they didn't withdraw it because they didn't want it. And 2, that they had a complete take it or leave it attitude. I'd refer you to page 27 of the document that I will give to you, where Metro described
I'll give you the same extra 12 seconds that
Okay.
Mr. Monahan got.
At the end of the day, if you read on page 27, that's fine, I didn't realize I was talking that long.
Yeah.
Metro said that they would be willing to step into the shoes that the Cleveland Clinic currently holds with us and become our long-term corporate leaseholder. I thank you, and I will submit these to Mary.
Please do. Would you give it to
Sure.
Maureen? Thank you. And if you have it electronically, that helps us a great deal too, because we'll put it on the website. So Mr. Monahan, you too, if yours is electronic, we can put that on the website. Okay, appreciate it. Mr. Essie, is there a Mr. Essie here?
Brian Essie, 15306 Edgewater. Thank you. I heard Mr. Gable talk about the damages that are occurring at Lakewood Hospital. I agree with him on a couple of points. I believe these are self-inflicted damages. On May 13th, I attended the meeting. I heard a somewhat different story than I heard today about those damages, but we do agree that it is clear that the general announcement of the LOI on January 15th is causing and has caused damage to the hospital. Mr. Gable and I agree that there has been inaccurate information in the media and the press, and that information causes damage. And I think that inaccurate information is, and this is where we do disagree, that the hospital is going to close. And that the evidence on that is overwhelming against keeping it open in some form or another, possibly with Metro. Mr. Gable said that employees are leaving as a result of the general announcement, and that they may have to hire agency help, which is more costly. That presumes that the hospital will be closed. That's sort of putting pressure on all of you and our city and all of our citizens that we need to close this. And it almost amounts to a breach of the contract, as some other people are going to pursue, I think. The damages that LHA admits and acknowledged are really self-inflicted by LHA, and I believe also by the clinic. Mr. Gable said that there would be liability, accountability, and responsibility for the current situation, and I think there should be. But I don't think it's on council's behalf. The pressure on the trustees is wrong. The pressure by the trustees on council is wrong. It's wrong on the city. It must be stopped, and I think you need to stop it as soon as possible to prevent any more damage. There's something about a community rec center. There was a request for a proposal that Subsidian asked for on behalf of LHA and perhaps the city, I'm not sure of the technicalities. There was no mention of a recreation center in those proposals. Yet both of the proposals in response to it mentioned a rec center. That was the May 2015 or 2014 Metro proposal on page 3. Likewise, on April 21st, 2014, this is on the website of One Lakewood, the clinic response mentioned a community center with the new foundation funding it. I think we have to ask some questions as to how these entities wanted to bid on a community center and a rec center, and how that made its way into our hospital. There are two differences between these proposals. One left money on the table for a rec center. One did not. It had the money staying in to run a hospital. We know which one that is. Last night, I got a call from Carolyn Selbach. She called me to tell me about my article or my letter in the Observer and said it had opened her eyes to things. She has been on the Children's Board of Lakewood Hospital Foundation since 1948. She has spent 65 years volunteering for the hospital. She's been on board of the LHF since 1989. She said it opened her eyes. There are people changing their minds about this, and I think they should because I think they're learning more. She has also said that she never recommends people to donate to the Lakewood Hospital Association because she said, quote, that money goes downtown. I think that's instructive from someone who's been around for a long time. I really request that you reject the LOI as soon as possible and instruct the LHA and the clinic, to the extent you're capable of it, because I know there's a direct relationship, to retract this thing and to get back to the business of stopping the damage that is being occurred against our hospital. We need openness. We need to find out who can do what the city needs. And I think if we're going to have a debate about a rec center, we ought to have it wide open and decide. And let the people decide whether we want a rec center or a hospital. I believe we might be able to have both. Thank you.
Thank you. Dean? No Dean? Dean.
I couldn't hear you with all the clapping, I'm sorry. And just for your information, when my son timed me earlier today, my talk was 3 minutes and 49 seconds, so I'm going to try to hold me to it. My name is Dean Bilzel. I live at 1276 French Avenue. This is some observations from the meeting I attended on 4/30, the Cleveland Clinic. And I actually sent members of council this earlier, so it should be familiar with it, but I wanted to talk about it in front of the citizens of Lakewood. Do you know how committed the Cleveland Clinic is to our community? In April of 2010, the Cleveland Clinic's management with the Lakewood Hospital Association presented the, quote, vision for tomorrow to, quote, implement a bold, comprehensive plan to address the sustainability of Lakewood Hospital while simultaneously making available the finest services typically provided by hospitals in communities similar to Lakewood. However, less than a year later, Dr. Bronson, then the president of the Cleveland Clinic Regional Hospitals, was already discussing the large trend in healthcare towards the need to decrease hospital beds and thus the potential closing of Lakewood Hospital and the loss of services. Surprisingly, over the next 3 years, surveys completed by physicians led to a 2014 U.S. News and World Report ranking Lakewood Hospital with values in the 30s and low 40s out of 100. Most teachers would understand those kinds of scores. For service lines, the Cleveland Clinic management had sought to emphasize geriatrics, orthopedics, and diabetes. That same agency named the Cleveland Clinic Main Hospital #1 in Ohio, ranking in the mid to upper 80s for the same services. I ask you, does that sound like committed management or managed failure? It seems not much effort was made to make the Lakewood Hospital an equal partner in serving the needs of our community. Another question, is the Cleveland Clinic investment, their term, investment significant? The $34 million investment at the Family Health Center, proposed by the Cleveland Clinic is actually less than the contractual obligations to fulfill the terms of the current hospital lease through 2026, about $70 million. And it represents approximately 0.5% of the annual total revenues generated by the Cleveland Clinic system. The number comes out to $6.7 billion. That's in the PD on 5/1 of this year. In contrast, the economic impact of closing Lakewood Hospital has been estimated at approximately $290 million. All right, another question. Value. This is the term that folks from the Cleveland Clinic were using. To whom? The proposed Family Health Center was promoted by Dr. Donlin to deliver, and I quote him, transformative care, and to provide, another quote, added value for healthcare dollars to the community. It was to be, quote, an example of how to provide community health in this country, but no specifics nor cogent vision of this care could be provided by anyone from the Cleveland Clinic on that evening. The Affordable Care Act, which was discussed earlier, will require healthcare organizations that want to maintain that nonprofit status, quote, actively engage in programs that improve the health of the communities in which they are located. Surprisingly, that was in the PD the same day, 5/1. So I ask, is the added value for the community of Lakewood or the Cleveland Clinic if the Family Health Center has developed its plan? The residents of Lakewood need to review the facts about how committed the Cleveland Clinic has been in providing sustainable services and healthcare value in the last 19 years before we make them the only option in our community going forward. Finally, I'd like to say to the members of the council, vote to reject the letter of intent. Let's get Edward Graham, 1286 Chase. I have had the great honor in the past of serving on Lakewood City Council as the representative of Ward 3 for 12 years. So I have some understanding of the difficulties members of council have in dealing with tremendous issues like this that are so loaded with facts and misinformation. I took the trouble to send an open letter to council members. Since doing that, I have discovered one additional fact. Now, what I did tell you in the letter is the subsidium that was paid $500,000 to help come up with some ideas of how to help the hospital made a request for proposals from healthcare providers. And that proposal said, the following criteria reflect the minimum elements that the hospital considers essential to this transaction. The hospital will use these minimum criteria to identify and evaluate proposals. Operational plan and strategic vision. Proposal must set forth the respondent's operational plan and strategic vision for the hospital following the completion of the transaction, including the respondent's overall plan to meet the condition that the hospital continue to be operated as an acute care hospital with inpatient services. So the proposal must, if it's complying with the request for proposals, have a plan for an acute care hospital with inpatient services. I came to learn that there's a second proposal besides the Cleveland Clinic's proposal, that of Metro Health, which does offer a plan with full services. So the public has been led to believe there's only really one proposal and that it's either that or you're out of business. When the fact of the matter is there are two proposals that have been submitted. One proposal is tear down the hospital. The other proposal is have a full service hospital. And the only one that complies with the request for proposals is the one that provides for having a full service hospital. It'll have acute care inpatient services. So since sending in that letter to the council members to try to be of some assistance to them, I came to see in the Plain Dealer the proposal submitted by the Metro Health organization, which provides for having a full service hospital. So when you look at the facts here, we've had all this time spent evaluating a proposal that should have been rejected from the start, since it fails to provide what is said the minimum elements to be full service and the minimum criteria to identify and evaluate the proposals. Well, after getting paid $500,000, Subsidium apparently didn't choose to follow the rules of its own, of its own request for proposals. And the interesting thing is that Subsidium gave assistance to the Cleveland Clinic in preparing its letter of intent. That information is right in the minutes of the hospital. So that's not something I'm making up out of my head. A lot of work has been done by a whole lot of people on the Save the Hospital Committee to discover what the truth is in the matter. So I would urge this council to reject the letter of intent, which in my opinion
is very questionable, since the person, or I shouldn't say the person, the artificial person, Subsidium, that recommended that has a conflict of interest. They're helping to prepare the letter of intent and then recommending it. What kind of way is that to do business? So we have an opportunity to have some good hospital care through the Metro Health. So I would urge the council to look at the truth of the matter and reject the letter of intent and put the matter out to proposals. We know that there's one that will be coming in from Metro Health. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This concludes our audit and Mr. Graham, I forget what years were you on council, and thank you for 12 years of service. Starting when?
A long time ago.
Thank you for every year of it. The next person is Coletta Graham.
It's 12 long years for me.
Name and address for the record.
Coletta Graham, 1286 Chase Avenue.
Thank you.
Did you ever hear of the statement, 1 and 1 are 2? This is a summation for the people behind me. We have fought nonstop trying to get some representation for us. And the fact is that as I look at council, I especially look at Mr. Juris, who seems very, I don't know, disillusioned with the whole situation. I understand he's not running again.
To the chair. Thank you, Mrs. Graham.
Okay. As far as the clinic and this situation is concerned, I'll go back to saying 1 and 1 are 2. The clinic did not buy the hospital, they leased the hospital for 30 years. They still have 12 years left. So they have, behind the scenes, with the benefit of the Lakewood Hospital Association, done whatever they could to strip that hospital of every form of income. I'm not going any further because it doesn't make any difference. You're all going to do whatever you want as per usual. I want to talk about something personal. Today, I have a son that is the executive chef at a top-notch restaurant in Cleveland, Ohio. And he prides himself on his appearance. And he always comes over and brings his chef jackets to be washed. So this morning, I go down the basement, lift up the washer lid, and they're all destroyed because the city of Lakewood Fire Department has decided to flush out the fire hydrants. So, I don't know if this has ever happened to any of you people or any of the people behind me, but I spent 10 minutes flushing the water trying to get it out. Could not achieve that. I took a bottle of bleach trying to get those uniforms corrected, and to no avail. So I'm asking Mayor Summers if it would be permissible for me to submit a bill for 6 new chef jackets. My other point is this. I've lived in this city for over 40 years. A simple thing was done each and every time they flushed out the fire hydrants. They put a notice at the top of the street, and they put a notice at the bottom of the street to let us know that this was coming up, so we would know ahead of time. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Oh, I hear that they had a notice in front of the fire station. Well, I didn't have a chance to drive by the fire station, but anyway, that's the recourse. And one last thing very quickly, to Mr. Dunno. Hello. The last time at council, after the council meeting, I asked him, our street is a disaster. It's not chuckles, it's craters. And I asked him, could you possibly get them to come and patch the street? And he said he would do the best he could. So now I have rust water, because I have the fire hydrant in front of my house, in these craters. And I'm hoping that you could get somebody down to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Graham. The next person is George. I can't read your name. I can't read it. Sorry, George Bonangelos. Is George here? Sorry. Sorry, Ginger. That's all right.
Hi, my name's Ginger Coughlin. I live at 2021 Wascana Avenue. I'm a couple of doors down from Anto's Pizza, which is fabulous. However, I am concerned about the traffic, not only that we have on our street now, but what's going to happen because of Madison Avenue being repaved, which is absolutely necessary, but there's no parking. So it's going to be increased, and I'm just asking if something could be addressed or taken care of to limit some of the problem. And I'd appreciate it, and I'm sure some of my neighbors would as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Coughlin, for coming up here. The ward council person and the director of public works can talk to you after the meeting, so we can talk to you directly.
Okay.
I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming up here, and thanks for speaking on behalf of your neighbors also.
Thanks.
Thank you. Don't go away after the meeting. Stick around for
Okay.
the ward person. Thanks much. Is there any further business before council?
Chair?
Oh, Councilman Balazs.
I wanted to briefly acknowledge everyone who spoke and respond a little bit at least. I saw, can everyone hear? Now you can hear, all right. I wanted to briefly respond to a few of the points raised and just acknowledge everybody who's here. So first of all, thank you for being here. I take it red is now the Save Lakewood Hospital color. In addition to City Council being part-time representatives, I know that all of you aren't getting paid. We're getting paid a little something. You're getting paid nothing to devote so much of your time and energy to a community issue. So I know that that represents a lot of motivation and energy and passion. In situations like this, there's a tendency to believe that people that are arguing a different view don't agree, are the bad guys or something like that. I know from having spent time on this issue, that's not the case, that you have a lot of good people on all sides doing their level best to dig through the very evidence that you're asking us to evaluate and to get to the bottom of those questions. So to at least partly respond to what you've asked us to do tonight, I want to share this thought. Since receiving the letter of intent, City Council and the administration have been working diligently in good faith and with all deliberate speed, which is a key term, all deliberate speed, to understand and assess the proposed plan. And these efforts have included, thanks to our very energetic council president, 20 meetings by City Council with representatives of Lakewood Hospital Association, Lakewood Hospital Foundation, the Cleveland Clinic, Subsidium, human services organizations, and other community organizations, as well as all of you in the public, as well as an analysis of the definitive agreement and the lease that are in place today and govern the current hospital operations with the assistance of outside counsel. The city has also issued an RFP to healthcare financial consultants to assist with the review of Subsidium's analysis and other relevant financial information. It's anticipated that a healthcare financial consultant will be engaged as early as this week, and several of my colleagues, along with the law director, are working on that very point. So I'm just speaking for myself here, but from listening to my well-intentioned and hardworking colleagues, I want you to know that the questions you're raising are being taken seriously. I don't know that we can today say that, that the factual narrative that, and there are several that have been brought up by the public, that we've confirmed whether that's accurate or not. But we are working through a lot of the questions that you're asking us to do so. And sometimes that involves executive session privacy so that we can do an effective job of being your representatives in the community. That may come across as, hey, get out of the room, we're going to have a different conversation that has nothing to do with what you're asking us. That's not the case at all. In order to be able to effectively and sincerely and conscientiously delve into some of the questions you're asking us, there is appropriate confidentiality, and I say that from a legal, strict sense, but also a substantive sense. So that's not a full answer to what you're saying, but at least I did want to respond for me. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen,
May I have a moment?
Mr. Graham,
I don't think I've used up my 5 minutes.
well, indeed you did, but you know what, I'm so appreciative of all your years on council. You can take a minute or two to say one thing, since Councilman Bullock opened it up to
I just have one question. How many of those meetings were with Metro Health? I'd just like to know how many meetings have been held with Metro Health among all the many meetings.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I guess I'll answer my recollection. The strict answer to your question is 0 so far. I understand the implication behind the question. That I think that there is interest in getting to the bottom also of the questions you raised tonight to ascertain whether there is a viable proposal or not. In strict legal sense, though, Mr. Graham, in addition to being a council member, you're presently an attorney, former council member, you're a current attorney. You understand that what's before this legislative body is not only general questions, but a specific proposal, and that specific proposal doesn't specifically right now involve Metro Health. So the answer to the question involves getting at the presumption behind the question, which is, are we doing a complete thorough analysis? I think that we will be getting to that. Up to now, our deliberation has been around the LOI, which is a proposal that relates to the LHA and the Cleveland Clinic. So, I hope that's...
Thanks very much, Councilman Bullock.
Thank you.
Thank you. As you know, there are so many of you who are regulars here. There will be more meetings. Please plan to attend the next one, and thank you as usual for all of your input. Any further business before this council? Hearing none, move to adjourn. All those in favor?